The morning that destroyed my life started like any other Saturday. I'm Derek Walsh, and if you've heard my name before, it's probably connected to what became known as the CrossFit incident or the Walsh Rule. But before I became a cautionary tale, a vengeful husband, or an accidental industry reformer, I was just a guy sitting in a Toyota Camry at 9:47 a.m., waiting for his wife to finish her workout. The spring air in March carried that false promise of warmth that Colorado Springs was famous for, sunny but crisp, the kind of morning that made you think about weekend projects and barbecue plans. I'd driven Jenna to her 9 a.m. CrossFit class like I had every Saturday for the past 6 months. It was our routine now, as fixed as mortgage payments and Monday morning meetings. It's my stress relief, she'd told me when she first signed up back in September. You know how work has been lately. I need something that's just mine. I'd supported it completely. Why wouldn't I? Jenna worked as a marketing director for a tech startup downtown, pulling 12-hour days that bled into weekends. She'd come home with her shoulders knotted like rope, dark circles under her green eyes that makeup couldn't quite hide. If CrossFit helped her decompress, if it gave her back some of that spark I'd fallen in love with 10 years ago, then I was all for it. Besides, the changes had been remarkable. She'd dropped 15 pounds without trying, her clothes fitting better, her energy levels through the roof. She was buying new workout gear every week, suggesting we try new restaurants, even initiating intimacy more often. After 2 years of what felt like roommate coexistence, I thought we were finding our way back to each other. You sure you don't want to join me? She'd asked that morning as she checked herself in our hallway mirror, adjusting her sports bra. Ryan's classes are really inclusive. He's great with beginners. Ryan, the trainer. I knew him by sight. 28, maybe 30, with the kind of physique that came from treating the gym like a second home. Bright white teeth, perfectly styled hair even at 6 a.m. The kind of guy who probably counted his macros and posted motivational quotes on Instagram. He ran Jenna's Saturday class and a few others during the week. Always nodded when he saw me, threw in a, "Hey, Derek," like we were old buddies. Maybe next week, I'd said, the same response I gave every Saturday. Someone's got to guard the coffee shops from overcrowding. She'd laughed, that tinkling sound that still made my chest tight after all these years. Your sacrifice is noted and appreciated. Her Apple Watch sat on the dashboard now, the rose gold catching the morning sun and throwing tiny rainbows across the windshield. She'd taken it off as we pulled up, fumbling with the band. "This thing is driving me crazy," she'd muttered, tossing it onto the dash with uncharacteristic carelessness. "It keeps sliding around during burpees. The band's loose again." "I can take it to the Apple store while you're in class," I'd offered, already mentally mapping the route. "They'll adjust it for free." "No, it's fine." She was already gathering her water bottle and towel, mind clearly on the workout ahead. "I'll deal with it later. Maybe I just need a different band. The silicone one might work better." She'd leaned over to kiss my cheek, a quick, distracted peck that landed more on my jaw than intended, before hopping out. The car rocked slightly with her exit, that new athletic grace evident even in simple movements. "See you at 10:30, she called over her shoulder. "Love you!" "Love you too," I replied. But she was already jogging toward the entrance, ponytail bouncing. I watched her walk into the gym, and I wasn't the only one. Two guys loading equipment from a truck paused to appreciate the view. Her new Lululemon leggings, the ones she'd insisted were worth the $100 price tag, hugged every curve. The matching sports bra showed off shoulders and arms that hadn't been there 6 months ago. When had she gotten so toned, so athletic? Pride swelled in my chest, mixed with something else. Possession, maybe. That primitive part of the male brain that wanted to roll down the window and shout, "That's my wife!" to the guys still staring. Instead, I reached for my coffee, settled back with my phone to scroll through sports news, and wait out the 75-minute class. The watch buzzed. At first, I ignored it. Probably a work email. Startup life meant no real weekends. Or maybe her mom texting about Sunday dinner. Lauren had been pushing for us to commit to Easter brunch even though it was still 3 weeks away. But it buzzed again. And again. insistent. The notification preview showed on the screen. Those little letters that would change everything. Ryan PT. Your husband gone? Ready for... My coffee cup paused halfway to my lips. Ryan PT, personal trainer. The Ryan who was currently inside the gym with my wife. The Ryan who adjusted her form and spotted her lifts and encouraged her to push through the burn. I set the coffee in the cup holder, my hand surprisingly steady. There could be a reasonable explanation. Maybe he was asking if I was gone so he could discuss surprise birthday plans. Mine was next month. Maybe it was about a special nutrition program he didn't want me to know about yet. Maybe. My finger hovered over the watch face. Jenna and I didn't go through each other's phones or messages. Never had. Trust, we'd always said, was the foundation of our marriage. 8 years married, 2 years dating before that. A decade of building a life together, and we'd never given each other reason to doubt. But something in my gut twisted. That ancient instinct that had kept our ancestors alive whispered warnings in my ear. I tapped the notification. The full message appeared in green text against black. Ryan PT. Your husband gone? Ready for your real workout? The blood in my veins turned to ice water. I read it again. Then again. The words didn't change, didn't rearrange themselves into something innocent. That devil emoji mocked me, its little purple face grinning with implications I didn't want to understand. My hands started shaking. The parking lot sounds, car doors slamming, music from passing vehicles, birds chirping in the trees, faded to white noise. Everything narrowed to that small screen and those devastating words. Another buzz. My trembling finger swiped to see the new message. Ryan PT. Loved how flexible you were yesterday. The yoga studio after hours was perfect. Yesterday. Friday. When Jenna had said she was working late, dealing with a campaign crisis for a client launch. She'd texted me around 6 p.m. Disaster at work. Don't wait up. I'll grab something from the cafe downstairs. She'd come home around 10 p.m., hair damp from what she said was a gym shower after stress running on the office treadmill. You worked out at the office? I'd asked from the couch, barely looking up from the Nuggets game. Just needed to clear my head, she'd said, heading straight for our bedroom. Going to shower off the day and crash. I'd found it odd that she needed another shower, but hadn't questioned it. Trust, foundation, 10 years. Another message appeared on the watch. Ryan PT. Wear those new leggings. Want to peel them off you again. The coffee cup slipped from my nerveless fingers, hot liquid splashing across my jeans. I didn't feel the burn. Couldn't feel anything except the crushing weight settling on my chest, making it impossible to breathe. Again, the word echoed in my skull. Want to peel them off you again. 8 years of marriage, 2 years of dating. We'd talked about kids just last month. She'd sent me a listing for a house in a better school district, 4 bedrooms, a big backyard. For someday, she'd written with a heart emoji. My phone was in my hand before I realized I'd grabbed it. Operating on autopilot, some primitive part of my brain focused on evidence preservation while the rest of me shattered. Screenshot. The timestamp showing 9:52 a.m. Screenshot. The contact name with its little flexing arm emoji. Screenshot. Every damning word preserved in my photo library. Through the gym's floor-to-ceiling windows, I could see the class in full swing. 20 people doing box jumps in synchronization, Ryan at the front demonstrating proper form. The glass was supposedly soundproof, but I imagined I could hear his voice. Great job, everyone! Feel that burn! That's growth happening! Jenna was in the front row. Of course she was. She'd always been competitive, always needed to be the best. She landed her box jump and Ryan gave her a thumbs up. Even from 50 yards away, I could see her beam at the praise. Then he moved closer to her. Adjusting her stance, he said something that made her laugh. His hand touched her hip, guiding her position. It lingered a beat too long. 2 beats. 3. She didn't move away. How many times had I sat in this exact spot, in this exact car, proud of my wife's dedication? How many Saturday mornings had I smiled at her excitement about class, kissed her goodbye, told her to crush it in there? How many times had Ryan's hands been on her body while I sat out here like a fool, guarding coffee shops? The watch buzzed again. Another message. Ryan PT. Can't wait to work on your flexibility again. Same position as last time? I was going to be sick. The parking lot spun. I fumbled for the door handle, stumbled out onto the asphalt, and barely made it to the landscaped median before my coffee came back up. My breakfast followed. Then nothing but bile and rage. A woman walking her dog gave me a wide berth, probably thinking I was hungover. If only a hangover would fade. This was permanent. This was my life detonating in real time, while 20 feet away my wife did jumping jacks for the man she was sleeping with. I straightened up, wiped my mouth with the back of my hand. My reflection in the car window showed a stranger, pale, wild-eyed, shell-shocked. 34 years old, regional sales manager for a medical device company, former high school basketball player now with a dad bod and a receding hairline. What did I have that could compete with Ryan's six-pack and perfect smile? When had I become the clueless husband in someone else's affair story? Another couple pulled up nearby, the woman kissing the man before heading into the gym. He pulled out his phone, settled in to wait, just like I'd been doing. I wanted to warn him. Wanted to grab him by the shoulders and shout, "Check her messages! Don't trust anyone! They're all lying!" But I didn't. I stood there, one hand braced against my Camry, waiting for the world to stop tilting. The watch kept buzzing, more messages flowing in. Ryan was on a roll now, probably standing right next to my wife, sexting her while her husband sat in the parking lot like a loyal golden retriever. I looked at the next message. Ryan PT. That thing you did with your tongue yesterday? Red. Everything went red. Not metaphorically. My actual vision tinged crimson at the edges. My hands clenched into fists so tight my nails cut crescents into my palms. Through the windows, I watched Ryan move to the next station, demonstrating kettlebell swings. Jenna followed, mimicking his form. He stood behind her, hands on her hips again, guiding the movement. To anyone watching, it looked like professional instruction. But I knew now. I knew what those hands had done, where they'd been. She was wearing the new leggings, the $100 ones she'd been so excited about. They're like butter, she'd said, modeling them in our bedroom. Feel how soft. She'd grabbed my hand, placed it on her thigh. I'd made some joke about expensive butter. We'd laughed, made love. Talked about maybe starting to try for kids soon. Had she worn them for him? Had she thought about him while I touched her? When was the last time we'd been intimate that she hadn't just come from him? The questions attacked like hornets, each one stinging worse than the last. 6 months of Saturdays, 24 weeks, roughly 30 classes if you counted some Wednesday evenings when she'd gone for extra cardio. How many times? In how many positions? How many lies had she told with lips that had been on him? I realized I was hyperventilating. Several people had noticed the guy having a breakdown next to his car. A gym employee, not Ryan, some teenager working the front desk, stuck his head out the door. "Sir, you okay? Do you need medical attention?" Yes, I wanted to say. I need emergency surgery to remove these images from my brain. I need a transfusion to replace all the blood that's turned to battery acid. I need a time machine to go back to this morning when I didn't know my wife was destroying our marriage for a guy who probably charged $75 an hour. "I'm fine," I managed. "Just something I ate." He nodded sympathetically and disappeared back inside. Through the window, I could see him talking to someone, probably reporting the sick guy in the parking lot. Good. Let them talk. Let them all talk. They'd have something much more interesting to discuss soon. Because I'd made a decision. Somewhere between the vomiting and the hyperventilating and the text about what she'd done with her tongue, I'd decided. I wasn't going to slink away. I wasn't going to confront her privately, give her a chance to lie, to trickle truth, to gaslight me into thinking I was overreacting. I wasn't going to be the cuckold who discovered the affair and kept it quiet to protect everyone's dignity. Screw dignity. Screw privacy. Screw the high road. If she wanted to conduct her affair in a public gym, in front of mirrors and witnesses, then that's where it would end. Publicly. With mirrors reflecting everyone's shock and witnesses to remember every detail. I grabbed the watch and headed for the entrance. The automatic doors whooshed open with a blast of air conditioning and synthesized music. Some remix of a song I didn't recognize pounded through speakers, the bass vibrating in my chest. Or maybe that was my heart trying to escape. "Sir, you need to check in." The desk attendant, the same kid who'd checked on me, started to protest. "I'm a member," I lied, pushing past him. Left something in my wife's car. The main floor opened before me like an arena. Mirrors on every wall multiplied the scene into infinity. Rows of people jumping, lifting, sweating, striving. The smell hit me like a physical force. Rubber mats, metal weights, human effort, and underneath it all, the acidic tang of lies. Ryan stood at the front, leading the class through something he was calling supersets. His voice boomed through his headset microphone, all enthusiasm and encouragement. "Come on, people! 5 more reps! You've got this! Jenkins, great form! Lisa, push through! Jenna, perfect! Absolutely perfect!" Of course Jenna was perfect. She was sleeping with the instructor. I walked onto the floor, the watch clutched in my hand like a grenade with the pin pulled. A few people noticed me. Guy in jeans and a coffee-stained shirt didn't exactly blend in with the Lycra crowd, but they were mid-workout, focused on their own pain. I stopped in the center of the space, right where everyone could see me. The music pounded. Ryan counted reps. Jenna did perfect burpees, her form indeed flawless. "Attention, everyone!" My voice cut through the music like a chainsaw through balsa wood. It was a voice I didn't recognize. Raw, primal, carrying all the authority of absolute rage. 20 heads turned. The synchronized movement stuttered to a halt. Someone by the kettlebells dropped their weight with a clang that echoed in the sudden stillness. "I have an announcement about your trainer, Ryan." Ryan pulled off his headset, confusion creasing his perfect face. Up close, I could see why women fell for him. Chiseled jaw, eyes the color of ocean water, probably never had an insecure day in his life. "Sir, we're in the middle of—" "Oh, I know what you're in the middle of." I held up the watch, its screen catching the overhead lights like a beacon. "Want me to read your messages to my wife?" The words detonated in the air. Someone gasped, sharp, shocked. Phones started appearing in hands, that modern instinct to document drama overriding everything else. "Derek, wait!" Jenna's face had gone white. Sweat that had nothing to do with exercise beaded on her forehead. "Wait! Wait!" I laughed, the sound harsh and broken, echoing off the mirrors. "Like you waited to screw him until I was gone? Oh, wait, you didn't even do that! This is inappropriate!" Ryan stepped forward, reaching for the watch. "Sir, you need to—" "Inappropriate?" I shoved him back. Hard. He stumbled, caught himself on a weight rack. "You're screwing my wife and I'm inappropriate?" The F-bomb echoed in the sudden silence. Someone had killed the music, probably the desk kid sensing lawsuit potential. 20 fitness enthusiasts stood frozen, watching the complete destruction of my marriage in real time. I saw phones raised, red recording lights blinking. Good. Let them record. Let the whole world see. "From Ryan, your trusted trainer," I read, my voice carrying to every corner of the gym. The acoustics, designed to amplify instructor voices, worked perfectly for public humiliation too. "Your husband gone? Ready for your real workout? Devil emoji included for those keeping track." A dumbbell hit the floor. The woman who dropped it, mid-50s, wearing a shirt that said, "Sweating for the wedding," covered her mouth with both hands. "Derek, please, not here." Jenna tried again, stepping toward me. "Not here?" I backed away from her, keeping the watch high where everyone could see. "Where then?" "In the yoga studio where you've been screwing him." More gasps. Whispers rippled through the crowd like waves. "There's more!" My voice grew stronger, fueled by adrenaline and humiliation. Loved how flexible you were yesterday. The yoga studio after hours was perfect. Oh my God, someone said clearly. I was wondering why the studio was locked last night. I wanted to foam roll. And let's not forget this gem, I continued, scrolling to the next message. Wear those new leggings. Want to peel them off you again. A woman in purple spat out her water. Another dropped into a squat, not from exercise but from shock. By the pull-up bars, a man I recognized from somewhere, Tony, from the neighborhood barbecue, had gone very, very still. Everyone getting their money's worth? I asked the room. Paying for personal training? Well, Ryan here offers very personal services, very hands-on instruction. Just ask my wife. That's enough. Ryan found his voice, tried to reclaim authority. Everyone, please. Oh, I'm just getting started. I pulled out my phone, showed the screenshots to anyone close enough to see. Look, here's his number, his profile pic. For anyone who wants to verify this isn't some misunderstanding. People pressed closer. The evidence was right there in high definition. Ryan's contact info, the timestamps, the growing thread of messages that painted a clear picture of exactly what kind of training had been happening after hours. Holy shit, a woman in purple leggings stared at my phone screen. Melissa, her name tag said. He sends me messages like this too. I thought he was just flirty. Her husband, who'd been doing pull-ups in the corner, dropped from the bar with a thud. What? The dam burst. He told me I needed special attention for my form, one woman said, voice shaking. Said my husband didn't appreciate my progress like he did, added another. Always suggested I come to the Wednesday night class without my spouse. Kept offering private sessions at a discount. Said the yoga studio was perfect for one-on-one flexibility work. Each confession was another brick in the wall of Ryan's destruction. I watched his face change from confusion to panic to the kind of terror that comes from watching your life implode in real time. Welcome to the club, I thought viciously. You weren't even special, I told Jenna, who stood frozen in her $100 leggings, tears streaming down her face. You were just another housewife he could manipulate, another bored spouse looking for attention. How does it feel to be a cliche? Derek, Save it. I turned back to the crowd, many now filming with undisguised fascination. Anyone else want to share their Ryan experience? Now's your chance. Free therapy session courtesy of my marriage. Tony stepped forward. 6'3", built like a former linebacker going soft. His wife trained with Ryan too. I remembered now she'd been at that barbecue, talking about her amazing trainer. Bro, Tony's voice was low, dangerous. My wife trains with him. Might want to check her phone, Tony. The color drained from Tony's face. He turned to his wife, Sarah, who was suddenly very interested in retying her shoes. Sarah? Tony's voice cracked. Tell me he's lying. Her silence was deafening. The glass door to the main office flew open with enough force to rattle the frames. Marcus Chen, the gym owner, rushed out looking like a man watching his life's work burn down. Which in a way he was. Marcus was in his 50s, had built CrossFit intensity from nothing. Started in a warehouse with used equipment and a dream. Now he had the premier fitness facility in the city, corporate contracts, a waiting list for membership. He was always talking about community, family values, creating a space where everyone felt safe and supported. What the hell is going on? He demanded, taking in the scene. Me with the watch held high like a trophy. Ryan backed against the weight rack, Jenna crying, members filming, Tony and Sarah in what looked like the beginning of a very public divorce. Your trainer's been screwing members, I announced. Multiple members, in your yoga studio. Marcus went pale. 20 years of building his business, and I watched him see it crumbling in real time. His eyes went from Ryan to the crowd to the phones recording everything. Ryan, is this true? Ryan's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. No words came out. What could he say? The evidence was right there, multiple women nodding confirmation, marriages detonating like dominoes across his gym floor. You're fired, Marcus said immediately. The words came out flat, final. Get out. Now. You can't just... I can and I will. Marcus's voice rose, 20 years of buried stress erupting. Using my gym for this? My yoga studio? Get your shit and get out. But I wasn't done. Oh no, we were just getting to the good part. I pulled up the gym's Facebook page on my phone. CrossFit Intensity had 12,000 followers, mostly local, mostly active. Perfect audience for what came next. What are you doing? Jenna whispered, finally finding her voice. Making sure everyone knows what kind of place this is. My fingers flew across the screen. 1 star. Trainer Ryan uses the facility for affairs with married clients. Owner allows unsupervised access to yoga studio for private sessions. Would not recommend unless you want your marriage destroyed. Management aware but took no action until publicly exposed. I tagged Jenna, tagged Ryan, added the screenshots of the messages, hit post. The phone in Marcus's office started ringing before I even lowered my phone. Then another line, then another. The desk kid ran to answer them, fielding what I assumed were the first waves of cancellations. Comments flooded in immediately. OMG, is this why the yoga studio is always locked Friday nights? He hit on me too. Thought I was imagining it. Canceling my membership now. This is why I work out at home. And at $, that's my trainer too. Sending this to my wife right now. The post was shared 3 times in the first minute, then 10 times. Then I lost count. Stop it! Jenna grabbed my arm. You're ruining everything! I'm ruining everything? I yanked away from her. That's rich! More marriages were imploding around us. Tony had his wife's phone now, scrolling through something that was making his face darker with each swipe. Another couple was screaming by the water fountain. A woman was on her phone in the corner. Pack your stuff and get out! I don't care where you go! Ryan? Ryan the trainer? It was beautiful in its destruction. Like watching a building collapse in slow motion, each floor pancaking the one below, dust and debris spreading in an ever-widening circle. This is your fault! Jenna screamed at me. You drove me to this! My fault? The laugh that came out of me didn't sound human. Please, explain to the class how your affair is my fault. You stopped seeing me. She was ugly crying now, mascara streaming in black rivers. When's the last time you complimented me? Noticed I'd lost weight? Cared about anything besides your job and your fantasy football? So you spread your legs for the first guy who noticed your squat form? The slap came fast. My cheek stung, but not as much as my heart. The crowd made a collective ooh sound, like we were on Jerry Springer. You want to hit me again? I offered her my other cheek. Go ahead. Maybe Ryan can kiss it better later. Oh, wait. He's about to be unemployed and blacklisted from every gym in the state. She raised her hand again, but Tony's voice cut through. 3 months! 3 goddamn months! He was waving his wife's phone. Team building sessions? Team building? Ryan tried to edge toward the exit, but found his path blocked by angry husbands congregating like antibodies around an infection. Going somewhere? One asked. We have questions about your training methods. Marcus was on his phone now, probably calling his lawyer, or his insurance company, or maybe updating his RSUM because CrossFit Intensity was done. You don't recover from something like this. Not in the age of social media. The comments on my post kept rolling in. The share count hit triple digits. Someone had cross-posted to the community Facebook group, then the local moms group, then the singles in the city page with the caption, "This is why I'm single." Everyone out! Marcus finally shouted. Class is canceled. The gym is closed until further notice. Nobody moved. This was better than any workout. Drama burned more calories than burpees. I said, out. People started gathering their things, but slowly, phones still recording. The exodus began, but it wasn't orderly. Couples were fighting. Friends were choosing sides. The social fabric of CrossFit Intensity's family was shredding in real time. I headed for the door, Jenna following, alternating between begging and blaming. Derek, please, let me explain. Explain what? I didn't stop walking. How you've been lying for 6 months? How many times, Jenna? Once a week? Twice? Were you thinking about him when you were with me? We burst into the parking lot, the chaos following us. Cars were leaving, others arriving to pick up spouses who'd called for emergency rides. Tony was screaming at his wife by their Suburban. Another couple was physically wrestling over car keys. It didn't mean anything, Jenna cried. 6 months of lies didn't mean anything? Planning to buy a house, talking about kids, that didn't mean anything? I mean the sex. It was just physical. Just physical. I spun around so fast she stumbled backward. You destroyed our marriage for just physical? What did he have that I didn't? Better abs? Bigger arms? What? Attention, she said quietly. He paid attention to me. I pay attention. No, you don't. Now she was angry again, that quick switch from victim to aggressor. You come home, ask about my day without listening to the answer, stare at your phone through dinner, fall asleep watching TV. When's the last time you really looked at me? Noticed my new haircut? Complimented my outfit? Made me feel wanted? So you screwed your trainer. So I screwed my trainer. The admission hung between us like a physical thing. There it was. No taking it back. No pretending it was a misunderstanding. Was it worth it? I asked. Was Ryan's attention worth this? She looked around the parking lot, at the chaos, the ruined marriages, the gym with a closed sign already in the window, the lives destroyed. No, she whispered. Good. Remember that when you're single at 35, swiping through dating apps, trying to explain to matches why your marriage ended. Well, I screwed my CrossFit trainer and my husband exposed it to everyone, destroying multiple marriages and a business. That'll make a great icebreaker. I left her there in the parking lot and drove home. The house felt different knowing what I now knew. Poisoned. Every surface potentially contaminated with their texts, their planning, their afterglow. I grabbed garbage bags from under the kitchen sink and went to our bedroom. Her things went in without ceremony: clothes, jewelry, the photos from her nightstand. The lingerie I'd bought her for our anniversary. The silk robe she wore on lazy Sunday mornings. All of it contaminated now, all of it garbage. My phone rang constantly. Friends who'd seen the post, her mother horrified. My brother asking if I needed bail money. I let them all go to voicemail. By 3 p.m., I was sitting in a divorce lawyer's office. Jennifer Morrison came highly recommended for contested divorces, especially the messy kind. She was in her 40s, sharp as a surgical scalpel, with eyes that had seen every variation of marital destruction. Document everything, she said, reviewing the screenshots. This is clear adultery. Colorado is a no-fault state, but infidelity can impact asset division and alimony. The court will not look favorably on her actions. I want the house, I said. We'll ask for it. What about alimony? She makes more than me. It was true. Her marketing director's salary was nearly double my medical device sales income. I want her to pay me to forget this marriage existed. Jennifer smiled, a shark scenting blood. I like the way you think. Given the public nature of the revelation and the damage to your reputation, we might also pursue emotional distress damages. Can we do that? We can try. Courts are recognizing social media humiliation as a form of damage. Your case is particularly egregious. The affair was conducted in public, at a business you frequented, with someone in a position of trust. We spent 2 hours strategizing. By the time I left, I felt something I hadn't expected: hope. Not for reconciliation, that ship hadn't just sailed, I'd personally set it on fire and pushed it out to sea. But hope that I could rebuild something from the ashes. The Facebook post had gone nuclear while I was with the lawyer. Over 1,000 shares. Local news had picked it up. Scandal rocks popular gym. Reddit had a thread with 500 comments. Someone had made a TikTok setting the drama to music. My phone had so many notifications I had to turn them off. I posted an update. Update: getting divorced, selling the house. If your spouse used Ryan as a trainer, check their phone. You're welcome for the public service announcement. To those saying I should have handled this privately, she conducted the affair publicly. Public crimes deserve public trials. The comments were split. Half called me a hero, half said I'd gone too far. Someone started a #TeamDerek hashtag. Another person created #JusticeForJenna. The internet picked sides like it was a spectator sport. Marcus called around 6 p.m. Derek? It's Marcus Chen, from the gym. I know who you are. I wanted to apologize. I had no idea this was happening. If I'd known. Would you have done anything? I asked. Or would you have protected your star trainer who brought in clients? Silence. Then, I don't know. I hope I would have done the right thing. Well, now you don't have to wonder. The gym is ruined, he said quietly. 20 years of building this place and it's gone. We've lost 200 members since this morning. The phone won't stop ringing with cancellations. My wife wants me to just close permanently. I'm sorry about your business, I said, and meant it. But I'm not sorry for exposing what was happening in it. I understand. For what it's worth, you did the right thing. It just cost us both everything. He hung up. I sat in my empty house, surrounded by garbage bags of Jenna's things, and wondered if he was right. Had I done the right thing, or had I just guaranteed mutual destruction? My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. You don't know me, but my wife was one of the women who admitted Ryan propositioned her. We're in counseling now. It's hard, but we're trying. Thank you for exposing this before it went further. You saved my marriage. Greg. Another text came in. I was supposed to start training with Ryan next week. You saved me from making a terrible mistake. Thank you. Anonymous. And another. My daughter goes to that gym. I'm horrified this was happening. Thank you for protecting other families. Concerned parent. Maybe Marcus was wrong. Maybe it hadn't cost everything. Maybe sometimes you had to burn down the rotten structure to build something better. Over the next week, the story evolved from local drama to cautionary tale. More women came forward, not just about Ryan, but about inappropriate behavior from trainers at other gyms. It turned out CrossFit intensity wasn't unique, just the first domino to fall publicly. Tony and his wife Sarah were definitely getting divorced. She'd been seeing Ryan for 3 months, meeting at her apartment while Tony traveled for work. The apartment he paid for. With the bed he'd bought. The betrayal was layered like a toxic lasagna. Another couple, the Johnsons, discovered flirty messages that hadn't progressed to physical yet. They were trying counseling. I saw them once at Whole Foods, holding hands by the organic produce. Good for them, I thought. Maybe some marriages could survive near misses. But the worst revelation came from a woman named Amanda. She came forward saying Ryan had assaulted her during a stretching session 6 months ago. She'd been too scared to report it, worried no one would believe her word against the popular trainer. Now, with everything public, she felt safe speaking up. The police got involved after that. Suddenly, it wasn't just about affairs and broken marriages. It was about potential criminal behavior, about a predator using his position to target vulnerable women. Ryan tried to go into hiding, but the internet doesn't allow that anymore. His Instagram, with its 50K followers and carefully curated fitness inspiration, became a battlefield. Every post flooded with comments about the scandal. Brands dropped him within hours. His side hustle selling workout plans and supplements evaporated. Someone found his LinkedIn and shared it. His phone number got leaked. He had to change it 3 times in a week. Justice in the digital age isn't pretty, but it's thorough. Marcus's gym closed after 2 months. He tried everything: new policies, discounted memberships, a complete trainer replacement, even a name change. Nothing worked. CrossFit intensity had become synonymous with scandal. The building sat empty for 6 months before becoming a trampoline park for kids. Somehow, that felt appropriate. Marcus sent me a message once, months later. The building sold, not for much, but enough to cover debts. Starting over with a coffee shop, less drama and caffeine than fitness. I'm sorry for how everything happened, but grateful it came to light. Found out Ryan had keys to the studio I didn't know about. Makes me sick thinking what else happened there. You did the right thing. Marcus. I didn't reply, but I did visit his coffee shop once it opened. Good coffee. Better security cameras. Jenna and I met for mediation 2 months after the explosion. She looked different, thinner, but not in a healthy way. Hollow, like something essential had been scooped out. I'm seeing a therapist, she said, while we waited for the lawyers. Trying to understand why I did it. And? Low self-esteem, need for validation, childhood issues with attention. The usual cliche? She laughed bitterly. Turns out I'm not special, just another statistic. You could have talked to me. We could have tried counseling. I know, but talking would have meant admitting we had problems. The affair let me pretend everything was fine. Stupid, right? Catastrophically stupid. He dumped me 2 weeks after you exposed us, she said quietly. Already had his eye on a new client, 23, just out of college. I wasn't special to him either. I could have been cruel, could have twisted the knife. Instead, I said, I'm sorry you're hurting. Really? No, but it felt like the right thing to say. She laughed, real laughter this time. God, I screwed up so bad. Yeah, you did. The mediation was straightforward. She didn't fight the divorce terms. I got the house, she paid alimony for 3 years. We split the rest. Clean break, as much as anything can be clean when you're dividing a life. For what it's worth, she said as we signed the final papers. I did love you. I just forgot for a while. A 6-month while. Yeah, a 6-month while that cost me everything. I sold the house anyway. Too many ghosts. Used the money to buy a smaller place across town, closer to work, with no memories attached. Fresh start. The first night in the new place, I sat on the floor with Chinese takeout and my laptop. On impulse, I searched for updates on everyone involved. Ryan had left the state. Last update placed him in Florida, trying to rebuild under a modified name. Good luck with that in the age of Google. Tony had a new girlfriend already, according to Facebook. Rebound a real thing? Not my business. Sarah, Tony's ex, had moved back with her parents. Her profile was locked down tight. The Johnsons were still together, posting carefully optimistic updates about choosing love and working through challenges. Marcus's coffee shop had good reviews. Great coffee, excellent security, one reviewer noted with a winking emoji. And Jenna? Her profile was gone. Complete social media blackout. Mutual friends said she'd moved to Portland, working for a smaller firm, keeping a low profile. Dating someone new, an accountant, safe, boring, the opposite of a CrossFit trainer. A year after the incident, I was at a conference in Chicago when someone recognized my name at the registration desk. Wait, Derek Walsh, the CrossFit guy. I tensed, ready for judgment or mockery. Man, you're a legend. My wife showed me that post. We had a long talk about boundaries after that. She'd been getting weird messages from her spin instructor. Shut that down real quick thanks to you. This happened more than I expected. Men thanking me for the wake-up call. Women saying it made them recognize inappropriate behavior from trainers, coaches, even physical therapists. The Walsh incident, as it became known in online forums, had started conversations in bedrooms across the country. A blogger reached out, wanting to interview me for a piece on digital age revenge and its consequences. Against my better judgment, I agreed. Why the public exposure? She asked over Zoom. Why not handle it privately? Because guys like Ryan operate in shadows, I explained. They count on shame and silence, and people not wanting to make scenes. I took that power away. But you destroyed multiple lives in the process. No, I revealed the destruction that was already there, like turning on lights in a roach-infested kitchen. I didn't bring the roaches, I just showed everyone where they were hiding. Do you have any regrets? I regret trusting her. I regret not seeing the signs. But exposing them? Never. Sunlight is the best disinfectant. The blog post went viral. 15 million views. The comment section was a war zone. People calling me a hero, others saying I was a vindictive monster who went too far. Someone started a podcast about the incident. Netflix called about documentary rights. I declined everything except the blog interview. I wasn't trying to profit from pain, just prevent others from experiencing it. 2 years post-explosion, I was doing deadlifts at my new gym when Patricia, the manager, approached. "Derek, got a minute?" I set down the barbell. "What's up?" "We're updating our trainer certification program. Would you be willing to speak to new trainers about professional boundaries?" "You want me to scare them straight?" "I want you to help them understand consequences. Your story has done more for gym safety than 20 years of corporate policies." So I started speaking to trainer groups, standing in front of eager 20-somethings with fresh certifications and dreams of Instagram fame, telling them about the trainer who thought he was untouchable. "Your clients trust you with their bodies," I'd say. "That's not an invitation to their beds. They're vulnerable, physically, emotionally. They're trying to improve themselves. Don't be the predator who takes advantage of that vulnerability." I'd show them the headlines, the ruined careers, the destroyed businesses, the criminal charges. This is what happens when you cross the line. Not might happen, will happen. In the digital age, secrets don't stay secret. Someone always finds out. Someone always tells. And when they do, your life as you know it ends. Some got it immediately. Others looked skeptical, probably thinking they'd be smarter, more careful. To them, I'd say, "Ryan thought he was smart too, thought he had it all figured out. Now he's scanning vitamins at GNC under an assumed name, hoping no one Googles him." The speaking engagements led to consulting work. Gyms hired me to review their policies, create safety protocols, train staff on recognizing warning signs. The Walsh Rule became official policy at major chains. No one-on-one training in isolated areas, no after-hours access, all training sessions visible from public areas, mandatory cameras in all workout spaces. It felt like building something positive from the wreckage. 3 years after that Saturday morning, Patricia and I were having coffee after a workshop when she made a confession. "I never told you why I was so quick to implement changes at our gym. I figured you were just smart." "No. Well, yes, but also—" She stirred her coffee, gathering courage. "My first marriage ended because of a trainer. Not Ryan, this was years before. Different state. But same story. Husband trusting while I worked out. Trainer paying attention. Affairs in empty studios." "You?" "Me. I was the Jenna in that story. Lost everything. Husband, kids' respect, home, friends. Had to rebuild from nothing." "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I want you to know that people can change. That one terrible decision doesn't define us forever. And that what you did, the exposure, the consequences, it matters. It saves people from becoming me, from becoming Jenna." "Do you think she's changed?" "I hope so. Rock bottom has a way of teaching lessons nothing else can." I thought about that conversation a lot, about redemption and consequences and whether people could really change. I'd never know about Jenna. She'd vanished from my life as completely as if she'd never existed. But maybe that was the point. Maybe the best outcome was everyone moving forward separately, carrying their lessons alone. 5 years after the incident, I met Rachel at, of all places, a gym. She was new in town, didn't know the history, didn't recognize my name. We bonded over proper squat form and protein shake preferences. Took things slow: coffee, dinner, months of actual dating before anything physical. When I finally told her the story, she listened without judgment. "That must have been horrible," she said when I finished. "It was, but it led to good things too. Changes that protected others." "Would you do it again? The public exposure? In a heartbeat? Even knowing the pain it would cause? Especially knowing. Private pain festers. Public pain forces change." She thought about that. "I'm glad you did it. Not for what you went through, but for what came after. The protections, the awareness, the conversations it started." We got married 2 years later. Small ceremony, no CrossFit trainers invited. Patricia stood as a witness. Marcus sent a card from his coffee shop. Even Tony reached out with congratulations and a warning to keep her away from gyms with a laughing emoji. The Walsh Rule was now standard in 43 states. Trainer certifications included mandatory ethics courses referencing the CrossFit incident. 3 documentary crews had covered the story. A business school used it as a case study in reputation management and crisis response. And somewhere, women went to gyms and came home to partners who trusted them, trained with professionals who respected boundaries, worked out in spaces designed for safety over secrecy. All because one morning, a watch buzzed on a dashboard. 10 years. A full decade since that Saturday morning when I discovered my wife was cheating and chose the nuclear option. The gym where it happened was now a children's play center, all bright colors and foam padding. Safer that way. Ryan never recovered professionally. Last anyone heard, he was selling insurance in Florida, using a slightly different name, hoping his past wouldn't catch up. But Google is forever. Every few months, someone would post in the fitness forums. Is this the same Ryan from the CrossFit thing? Always was. Jenna remarried. I found out through the last mutual friend we shared. Married an accountant, had 2 kids, lived in Portland. Vanilla life in a vanilla suburb with a vanilla husband. Safe choices after spectacular failure. I hoped she was happy. Not for her sake, but for her children's. Kids deserve stable parents, even if those parents once detonated their previous lives. Tony was on his 3rd marriage. Some people don't learn. Sarah had become a therapist specializing in betrayal trauma. Sometimes destruction leads to purpose. The Johnsons were still together, still posting their carefully curated happiness. Good for them. Not everyone needs to burn everything down. Some people can rebuild on damaged foundations. Marcus's coffee shop had become a local chain. 5 locations, all with prominent security cameras and clear sightlines. He'd learned his lesson about blind spots. We grabbed coffee whenever I was in town, 2 men bonded by catastrophe. Ever wonder what would have happened if you'd just confronted her privately? He asked once. She would have lied, trickle-truthed, probably kept seeing him while pretending to work on our marriage. Private confrontations give cheaters control of the narrative. And public ones? Public ones give control to the truth. He raised his cup. To the truth, then, however painful. To the truth. The Walsh Rule had evolved beyond gyms. Hotels used it for personal services, schools for tutoring. Any industry where one-on-one instruction happened now had protocols inspired by that morning in the parking lot. Universities taught it in business ethics courses. The Walsh incident, a case study in institutional failure and public accountability. Students debated whether I'd gone too far. Professors pointed out that institutional change rarely came from polite requests. I spoke at conferences now, not about sales or medical devices, but about accountability and prevention. Corporate boards paid well to hear how one exposed affair could destroy decades of brand building. I donated most of it to women's shelters. Seemed appropriate. The cost of prevention is always less than the cost of scandal, I'd tell rooms of executives. One predator protected by institutional blindness can destroy everything you've built. Ask Marcus Chen. Ask the shareholders of fitness chains that didn't implement proper protocols. Ask the women who were victimized while you looked away. Sometimes young men would approach after, angry. You ruined that guy's life over a consensual affair, one said at a conference in Denver. I revealed his choices. He ruined his own life by making them. But publicly? You had to destroy him publicly? He conducted the affair publicly, in a business open to the public, using his public position to manipulate clients. Why should the consequences be private? Because that's decent. That's civilized. You know what's not civilized? Using your position of authority to prey on vulnerable women. You know what's not decent? Destroying multiple marriages for your own gratification. I didn't create the indecency, I just refused to hide it. They usually stormed off, but sometimes one would stay. Think. Nod slowly. I get it. You took away their power. Exactly. Predators need shadows. I turned on the lights. Rachel and I had 2 kids of our own now. Boys. I'd teach them about boundaries and respect and consequences, about how trust, once broken, could never fully heal, about how public actions deserved public accountability. Sometimes, late at night, I'd think about that morning. The watch buzzing, the messages appearing, the decision to screenshot everything. Such small actions, tap, swipe, save, that led to such massive consequences. Would I do it differently knowing everything that followed? No. Because somewhere, a woman was working out safely. Somewhere, a marriage was protected by protocols. Somewhere, a predator thought twice because he'd heard about the trainer who lost everything. The nuclear option isn't for everyone. Most problems can be solved with conversation, counseling, compromise. But when the foundation is rotten, when the structure is built on lies, when those in power protect predators over people, sometimes you have to light the match. Sometimes you have to let it all burn. Sometimes the only way forward is through the ashes of what was, building something better from the lessons learned in flame. My name is Derek Walsh. I'm the guy who destroyed a gym with an Apple Watch, who exposed an affair so publicly it changed an industry, who chose the nuclear option and watched the mushroom cloud rise over what used to be my life. And given the same choice, with the same information, in the same parking lot on the same Saturday morning, I'd do it again in a heartbeat. Because secrets are just delayed explosions. And I'd rather control the detonation than be buried in the eventual collapse. The watch still sits in my drawer at home. Dead battery, outdated model, replaced years ago. But I keep it as a reminder of the morning everything changed, of the power of truth, however painful, of the moment I chose exposure over silence and changed more lives than I could have imagined. It's not a trophy. It's not a memorial. It's just a watch that happened to buzz at the right time, carrying the wrong messages, leading to the only possible outcome: total destruction. And from the ashes, something better. The Walsh Rule stands. The conversations continue. The protections remain in place. All because one Saturday morning, a husband waited in a parking lot while his wife worked out, and a watch revealed the truth about what kind of workout was really happening. Some stories end with reconciliation, some with forgiveness, some with everyone learning and growing and becoming better people. This one ends with change, with protection, with an industry transformed and predators exposed and marriages saved by the warning of one that couldn't be. It ends with me, 10 years older, scarred but stronger, remarried and rebuilt, watching my boys play in the yard of a house with no ghosts. It ends with the knowledge that sometimes the hardest choice is the right choice. It ends with the certainty that given the chance to do it all again, to handle it privately, to minimize the damage, to protect the guilty along with the innocent, I'd still choose the nuclear option, every single time.